Asking
Thank you.
people to vote.
Okay,
I'm like, that's
so we'll call the meeting to order at 6:01. Before we continue, I want to just welcome Fritz McClure to the commission. His first meeting is the commission, not the planning board, due to calendar issues. Jack, thank you for being back. I always like to acknowledge Jack. So I'll accept the motion to approve the agenda. We want to change, everyone heard me say this earlier, but we want to bring D first for action items. Talk about the milestone and the state. Mike's got some stuff to give to us on that. So with that,
So moved.
is there a second?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The minutes of March 19th, does anyone have any issues with the minutes? Eleanor, are we okay on those minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes there's issues that,
Nope.
okay. So I'll accept the motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So Mike, go ahead with, talk to us about milestone in the state.
Thank you. In your packet is the PowerPoint presentation from the public hearing that was held to discuss issues on Milestone Road. There's not too much for this particular item other than if anyone, Bird, wanted to share thoughts of that hearing. But I think it went fairly well, and some of the issues that were discussed were addressed at the meeting. But if there's, John, if you have other thoughts you want to share from that meeting as well, because this is going to lead into the next item for actually adding these improvements to the tip, and actually approving the tip amendment. So there is the PowerPoint presentation. If you go through some of the improvements if you want to.
I mean, I just think that I wasn't at the hearing. I was away. I would have been there. I'm just kind of maybe give us a little, the controversy about Tom Nevers with John's compromise idea, which I think was really good. How did that get received? Sorry, Barry. How you doing? And just in general, Mike, you know what I mean? Because it was the newspaper article, there's a little bit of stuff, some questions because of what the language in the way the article was written. I mean, the advertisement was written.
Yeah.
That's all.
Now, just wasn't necessarily the part of the public hearing, but I did have a pre-meeting with the District 5, Mass DOT District 5 officials. They're aware of the issue, and because it was probably a good thing that happened.
Yeah.
Edit, because it did raise some awareness that there is this local desire amongst a lot of folks to widen the road out, at least between the Rotary and
Tom
the
Nevers.
South Road.
New South, right?
Yeah.
The truck traffic
Yep.
here.
Yep.
So we did have a discussion there about potentially having a future project be that road widening to accommodate the heavier vehicles and add a little bit of
Fast and mopeds, safety. It's safety.
All the above, all the
Yeah.
above. So that was good. It was a very productive meeting, so that's something I'll coordinate with the districts to, and you should be aware we are updating the transportation plan this next fiscal year starting in September. So if you'd like to see that as one of the priority projects, it's something to think about, is adding it not only to our project schedule, but scoring and prioritizing it with the other list of projects. So that's something we'll start to formalize, and it was received well by the district, and we did get the correction made, so there was a little bit of clarity once the meeting got started at the very beginning to clarify of that error that we're not narrowing the road at all.
Right.
So we'll try to be productive from here on out to actually add what we all think is going to be an improvement to the corridor as part of a future project.
Am I getting my double eyes?
Yes, sir.
I love it. Now, are they doing cat's eyes on both sides? How are they going to do that? Or just in the center? Or leaving what's there?
Essentially, that's the same. There's some missing along
Yeah.
the route, so they'll replace the ones that are missing. But they won't be adding the edge markers. Honestly, there's really not enough room.
No room for them.
Width of the road
That's right.
To add those markers. The
Yeah.
cat's eye and
But the cat's eye thing is good for us.
absolutely.
You know, they were negative at the beginning, but people didn't realize there's no lighting. It's foggy. Matt, I mean, they work.
They show up when the headlights are on.
It's
they show up
really
nicely,
good.
yeah.
I mean, it's not a, off-island thing. That's a smart thing, to do.
Short of
So,
illuminating the entire corridor with
yeah.
overhead lamps, it's a good safety feature.
So,
I'd just like to add, Nat, I attended the meeting, and I actually thought it really went well. They just informed us of what their plan was. They weren't trying to jam it down our throat. They were receptive to the public comments, even when we had talked about the lines and how the perception was from the locals about how we like to, it's going to take adjustment to make a hard right turn instead of that easement. So being that they want to start it later on in the fall in September or something, but I think they heard us, and maybe they'll wait to see how it goes through the summer and comments if there's going to be a correction made. So I don't know if necessarily they were married to this one plan and sticking to it. There might be some adjustments, but I think overall it was a pretty good, calm, informative meeting.
Yeah, one of the other items that he explained his plan to him. I hope they understood it, but
Well,
yeah.
I think they did.
Yeah, and then
if
then
it
the
can
other
happen,
thing that came up was the problem is always the bicycles not stopping for the stop sign.
right?
So the issue was they were gonna put those, like we have in town, those rubber strips down for the visually impaired, so they know when they get to the end. And then the issue came up, well, nobody wanted them to be yellow, and they said, well, they come in other less obtrusive colors, and they were gonna do that with Mike.
yeah. I mean, was the people, Mike, the people at the meeting, were they the people that were here before? So they know what's going on a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
It was, Tom Courier was the project manager, and then Pam Hasner. I've worked with her since I've been here. She's been around forever.
Yeah.
So they were great. And then John Azario with GPI, with the design consultant. John Azario, he was actually the EIT at the time. It's been a little while since the Sparks Avenue roundabout was designed, but he was EIT at the time. Now he's a PE. So he's the lead engineer for GPI on this particular project. So he's very familiar with the island, and they're actually doing design work for Boulevard and that whole area. So they're very familiar with the island.
I mean, one of the things that they have to understand is the seasonality of certain intersections makes a big difference for how they perform. You know what I mean? Like, if we made that like a right turn off Sconset Road, it would be, a huge change, especially in the off season. You know what I mean? As far as people don't really need to do that in the wintertime. And in the summer, you have so much traffic, people be slowing down a lot to turn right without any, way to get around other than just going in the other lane. So I think it's good that came up with this idea for now to test it. It doesn't really cost anything to do what we want, to realign that car coming out to Milestone from Tom Nevers is really the key. To get that car to go straight so they can see both directions, All right, so you don't need any action on this?
Not until we go to the next item, and that's
Okay.
a formal.
Okay.
Well,
Ma-
while we're on
Matt, go
that, though,
ahead.
I'm a little troubled that it was a 4-3 vote to just accept the recommendation, and then we go, and then the minority goes and tries to change it. I think that should have, and I don't.
You're
just
talking about the vote before the DOT came here.
exactly,
Okay.
and you guys are supposed to represent the view of this committee. There you can speak as a minority, but you should represent the view of the committee, which was 4-3 to accept what they had. I'm not upset with what John did. I think it's a good suggestion. But as protocol, when I served with Michael Gwack, if he did something like this, I would have been hung. Like to just go out on your own, and it was a 4-3 vote a different direction. So I just think that should be acknowledged. And
But as far as a recommendation from this commission, it isn't. I mean, how much weight does we don't have regulatory authority, Mike. I mean, when we voted that before they came, was that the last action on this? I mean, what Matt's saying is true. I didn't think of it that way. I was thinking of it as more of
yeah, and this is not the end of the
the
world now. But I just
discussion
think if we
to
let
get
these
to
things
that next
pass,
step.
Yeah.
that just means that the loudest voice and the biggest bully can win the day. If they speak louder, I think we have to be. If we're a commission and we're working together,
But Matt, I respectfully disagree because we didn't speak up, and I didn't speak up to change the vote. We just brought something to their attention to see if maybe it would be something that they would look at because they weren't made aware of it before the study. But we gave them a favorable vote. So if they felt that by bringing this up, it was a good idea to maybe look into it. They'd make that alteration. If it wasn't, they'll keep with the plan as we voted in. So we're okay with that.
That's fine, as long as it's represented, you
I
guys
think it was.
represent as individuals.
I think we should.
You said you were representing the MPDC. I was at the hearing.
Yeah, if you guys do it as individuals, it's great. You know, we're three individuals in NBC.
Matt, here's an example of something similar to this.
Yeah.
I actually should have brought Beta. Is it Beta? How do you say their name? Beta? The consultants.
Oh, beta.
Beta. See? It doesn't spell that way. All right, so and Joe is the one that got the positive vote for that roundabout at Pulpus. And what did I say? This is going to blow up the whole plan. Like, this is not, shouldn't be on a piece of paper, and it shouldn't be on the internet because it looks foolish to most people would think we were nuts to do that. That's like that's like for 50 years from now, like why are we even doing it? But I got overruled. We lost that vote as far as like similar to what Matt is saying, and then we're so far away from doing that, it's almost like that vote doesn't mean anything. I guess what I'm saying is, when we vote here, it isn't necessarily the same as like a special permit or a real decision.
No, it isn't, but it's still a recommendation.
It's
a
is.
recommendation. If the
I get that.
minority wants to recommend, a minority
So-
view, they can do that. Or we want
So,
more
Mike,
study, we should do that.
so
And I'm not upset. I
To
like
Matt's
what you said,
point,
you
to
know.
Matt's question, which is a good point, we should talk about this, is, you're talking about June 18th, that they would make that the DOT would make a recommendation to us to vote on as an alternative? Because there wasn't an alternative. There wasn't like A and B for Tom Nevers intersection. It was just one idea. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly right. And the spirit of how we left the last meeting was that John and I would sit down and discuss and get his ideas on paper and share that with DOT.
Because they didn't have his idea.
Another
Nobody
idea.
did.
As another idea. And like I said, I did have conversations with DOT and let them know of the vote and
Yeah.
explained everything, that we have these other views, and John explained it again as himself,
Yeah.
as his point of view. Linda explained from
Yeah.
her point of view as well. I did tell them there was a little split, but what was already on the plan, we voted to leave that on the plan. But with the idea that there's going to be some adjustments and looked at the concerns, because there were concerns with, I'm sure that's why
Other
you wanted
concerns
alternative,
in the
because
ordinance.
there was something there that you weren't that happy with. So that's being addressed. That was shared with them. I don't think there was a lot of the exact plan that John had was 100% going to replace what was on paper.
Absolutely
It's
not.
still going to be a
Yeah.
perpendicular approach, but some of the other concerns about the turning ankles and things like that.
And then we talked about
sight
them.
lines
And then you have the money aspect. Like, I know we talked about that a lot at the last meeting. We can't take this, $2 million and put it over here for this, and it's confusing with the state to take their money and do what we want with it. It's very hard. That's something you learn for it's crazy. The money is not what you think it is. So that's another issue, is that we tried to make this be cheap and simple and a test at the same time with the painting idea, which I still wish, I just wish we knew that before John thought of it.
Yeah.
Then we would have been able to talk about it from it being presented in the packet, but no one had that idea. State didn't have it, nobody did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. I wasn't saying it like you should have had it, Mike. I'm saying if we had two proposals, like we do with roundabouts, the A idea, the B idea, we would have been a different discussion at this meeting that Matt's talking about than it was as a result of only having one thing.
Sure.
So Matt, is that okay? I don't want you to
I'm
be.
saying I'll go on, but in the future, I think it's important. My concern was that we would be lengthening it again and making it longer for people that are walking and biking to get across an intersection. I bike it; it's very dangerous, and I think that's so anything to do to slow people down and not have them cutting across at 1,000,000 miles an hour is great.
You mean cutting in from Sconset Road from town? The milestone
from town to
Yeah,
town to
that's
town
the
Nevers.
part you're talking about.
Yeah, and even when you see
Yeah.
them and you stop, then you never the cars are going. You can't even get across. So what they were talking about was going to shorten that
Yeah.
and make it safer.
Yeah.
And so if we change to something that doesn't make that part safer, I don't think that's a smart move.
I think, Mike, that there's possibly, as a result of if they go with the triangle thing, right? Like, kind of like what we did at Francis and Union. They may be an alternative plan to permanently build it to take care of what Matt's saying, but maybe not make it quite as, like what is it, like a 70-degree right turn now, the way it was set up? It was pretty, you'd have to slow down quite a bit on Sconset Road to turn right, that was my biggest concern. Go ahead.
I was also at the meeting, and
The meeting with DOT? Okay.
yeah, and there were certainly a lot of suggestions made from people that were on the board, or were on the board, and I remember this particular issue, and I remember the discussion about the angle and some people being concerned about it, critical of it. I didn't hear a whole lot, and they said they'd look into it, but I didn't get the sense from the people from the state. I thought they were pretty adamant that this was going to be a 90-degree angle. Maybe, did I misunderstand that? I know you made the suggestion, John, but I got the feeling they're pretty adamant about that being a 90-degree angle.
I got the same impression. They're going to do what they feel is going to be appropriate and what we voted on, and they're fine with that. I think the discussion, again, not to make a mountain out of a molehill, but I think the idea was presented as, if you've looked at all these possibilities and you still determine that the right angle is great, we're all for it. But if you haven't looked at it, consider it, and in the summer season when you actually have the traffic, that's a good time to consider it. So it was just an idea. It wasn't necessarily they're going to change what they've already approved and have budgeted. I think it was just something, okay, well, if we haven't thought of that, or yes, we have thought of that, thank you for your input, but no problem. We're just going to do what we want to do. I think it was just brought to their attention, and they probably already have thought of it, but behind closed doors. So I'm happy either way. And I know what you're saying, Matt, too. We even talked about maybe bringing it back, and they contradicted how that wouldn't be beneficial. And I said, well, good, you thought of that too. Excellent. So I don't think it's something that we're going to try and change their mind with. I just thought it was just input to add to the conversation. And if they hadn't thought about it, they'll make an adjustment. If they have thought about it, they're going to go with their original plan as it is. So.
Mr. Chairman, John's exactly right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it was just presenting that as a public comment and an alternative to what was already recommended. There are safety attributes that's best practices.
So we're going to get this anyway.
There are
and
elements,
that's for the most
I
part.
don't have the final plan that's getting developed, and all the public comments. I mean, there was a record keeper there that's was very, very thorough.
Yep.
The record keeping for the meeting and collecting all the comments. That is going to have some kind of rebuttal, or each comment will be addressed in writing. Once that's developed, I can share that with the commission and see what the alternative of that would be. But I think the spirit of it was to take what you all had recommended, the perpendicular approach. There was another alternative that existed that some people wanted reviewed, and that's where we are now. So John's exactly right.
One more question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Just for my benefit, a minute on what is the process? So in other words, you have this hearing, you voted, the commission voted to approve the plan, basically. Comments were given. Now, do they come back? What's the process from now on?
The next piece of communication that we'll get is a letter from District 5, or it might be the Boston office. So from Mass DOT, we'll submit a comment letter addressing each one of the comments or concerns that were made at the meeting. So that can be reviewed, and we can discuss at that point. But quite honestly, I don't think there was too much concern. I mean, for this specific intersection, if there is some review and finding of some kind of safety attribute that was in John's alternative, I'm sure those will be incorporated into the design, and they'll say that in writing in a narrative. Again, there's certain principles, design principles, that I don't think that there was a lot of wiggle room on. One of them was the crossing distance, whether there's some kind of opportunity for an island and stuff in the middle to break up that crossing distance. That's what they're looking at now. And
I mean, more globally, what's the process? In other words, whether they come back with comments or don't come back with comments, what happens after this commission has basically, in one form or another, said we approve what you want to do?
at a macro level, the next item in the agenda is to amend this fiscal year's TIP, federal fiscal year 18 TIP, to add the $2.7 million for the universe of improvements up and down the corridor. Once we amend that TIP, GPI, who's the engineer of record, there's dialogue between DOT and GPI on these concerns that were made at the meeting, and those will need to be incorporated into the design. The town and the NPDC will get a letter saying how those comments are being addressed with this new design. What the step on the design was just 25% preliminary design. There is a 75 and a 100% design step that has to go. So there is a higher refined design plan that will be developed after these meetings, and it should incorporate all those concerns. I mean, I had some comments of my own that I wanted to address. If those aren't there, then we'll again have another round of comments. Please, can you incorporate? Thank you.
Okay, good.
Mike, when is this project supposed to take place? If we amend our tip today, will they do work in the fall or the winter, the spring?
It's to be advertised. Again, I couldn't get a huge commitment on exactly when it was going to be advertised, but it was going to be in May. Now I'm told it was going to be June that the state would advertise construction of those projects. Again, that could get bumped to July, quite honestly. But it can be advertised for construction. Once a contractor is selected, then they go through the process of developing a construction schedule. Obviously, our construction window is in the fall months and then in the spring. They know that work cannot be done between Memorial Day and Labor Day, so that'll be incorporated into their design schedule. Casually, again, we don't have a final construction schedule, but I'm told that these improvements can probably be done in one construction season, one off season. So it will start this fall, and it should be completed in the spring based on the casual conversations I had with DOT.
Because I thought it was going to be quicker than that, because I thought this money had to be used up before the end of their fiscal year or something.
It had to be advertised for construction. We have to finish this public outreach process and get the final design plans to bid for construction before September 30th.
Okay, so continue to June 18th for this item, correct? Or you don't need any action now. But it's coming back to us. But we'll get to the tip part of it tonight. But I'm talking about it's going to be back in June on the agenda.
Once we amend the tip, the next conversation, probably the bit of information you'll get from me is the comment letter from DOT, and perhaps a next, again, this is for the May 21st meeting.
Okay.
The comment letter and maybe the final set of design plans.
Okay, so they may tweak a few things with our little. That was sort of I wanted to close with that. Like, they might take something and maybe adjust a little, but still get the safety issue addressed.
Correct.
Okay. Barry, you good? Okay. Were you at that meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we'll reset the action item. So we'll go to 3C now, Mike?
Yeah, item A, first item under item A under 3C documents is the FY 18 to 22 Transportation Improvement Program. Just for Mr. McClure, the TIP stands for Transportation Improvement Program. It's a federal document required for every region and in the United States to, if you're going to spend federal dollars, it needs to be programmed into a document. And that's the process we're going through right now. This project, the Milestone Road Improvements right now is not in our TIP, so we need to amend the TIP to actually add it and the funding that goes along with it.
Okay, so
Mr. Chairman,
yeah.
We have advertised this amendment through the TIP for 21 days. This is an opportunity to close the public review period and approve the amendment to add Milestone Road Improvements to the FY18 highway element of the Transportation Improvement Program.
this doesn't have any effect on our other, like on the roundabout at Bartlett or on anything to do with the in-town bike route?
No, this is a special.
This is separate from all that.
It's a special fund, so
Okay,
it doesn't,
that's what I thought.
doesn't impact our.
We
funding
never got
target.
this much money for anything else, so it has to be separate from everything we're doing.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous, Eleanor.
While you're on this, Nat, I did get
Yes.
a call from someone involved a number of years ago when this was paved, and the
Oh, with
numbers...
the 2009,
Yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah, whenever it was.
Yep.
And the numbers that are being thrown about for the cost to pave that
It's
entire
way
thing
overboard.
are way over the top. So the board has to realize, those are, planning numbers and,
Mike, did
they're-
they tell you 10 million? They really say that? I think he said a 10 or 11.
11, I heard
Uh,
11.
Like,
Yeah, that number made the paper, so the person said, what are they talking about? Tar is this much, and
Yeah.
it was this much when we did it before, and don't believe those numbers, it'll
not-
be less than that.
You
So-
never really know the final number until you get the bids
Exactly,
in.
you know.
Well, with
So,
the state highway, they usually go heavier than the pavement too.
Yeah.
Last time they did it.
this guy's going heavy with it everywhere.
Anyway, I just thought I'd share
Yeah,
that.
no,
It's
that's
not-
interesting, Matt. So, okay, Mike, so we're on, so we closed the public review period, so we're on to the new public review period, correct?
that was for the FY18 tip. The item number 2,
Yeah,
are we good with the minutes, Eleanor, on the motion and all that?
To approve the closing of the public hearing and the tip amendment to incorporate milestone road improvement.
yes.
Yeah, all right, so that's all set. Item number 2 is the FY19 to 23 Transportation Improvement Program. This is for next year's funding. There is a chart, and it's projected here, and it's in your packet on page 20. We do not, the status of the Surfside Bartlett Road project is not developed to 25% preliminary design submission to the DOT, so we're not at this
Using
point
that this year.
permitted to program that project into the TIP. That's our only federal aid eligible project that's in the pipeline right now. We do have a preliminary design hearing on May 17th that I can talk about towards the end of the meeting to encourage you all to attend. But that project just isn't at the threshold to be able to be programmable into the TIP. So the highway element for the TIP right now does not have a project, but there is all the funding is shown in the table there. There is a transit element to the TIP, and on page 21, it does list the federal aid to provide for operating assistance for the NRTA. That is included in the TIP, and that is something that we'll share with the public. We share the entire document with the public for comments, but just to make you aware that there are no highway projects.
So you're saying, without unwinding all that babbly stuff with the state, does that mean we're using that money for them? For NERDA?
Two separate
Kind
design
of?
funds. We're not-
Okay.
At this point, we're not flexing that. You may remember this from years past where
We did something
not have
last
a
year
highway
with them, with extra money. I can't, it was
Yeah.
2 buses or something. I can't remember what we did, but we did something.
Yeah, well, sometimes we federal flex our highway target over to the NRTA for bus purchases. We really don't need to do that right now. It's probably in a good space right now as far as transit investments throughout the state. So right now, the NRTA has sufficient funds for bus replacements using state.
So they're
funding.
good. So what about, so back to this money for Bartlett. So what do we do about that? Is that stay in its place, like a placeholder in the tip, or does that have to get used for something else?
Right now, we have it on and it's shown on the table on page 20.
I'm looking at it, but I still don't understand that. So,
Supplemental project lists are projects that could be eligible for programming into a TIP, almost exactly like what we're doing with the milestone road improvements.
Okay.
And the TIP to add the project, when that project hits a readiness.
so we could use the tip money for Bartlett for something else that was like on the Article 15 or whatever, whatever the article was for one of those projects, like the milestone fix, or like you have here,
Yeah.
or the Nobody a Farm one. I mean, the Nobody a Farm one's on there. I'm just
Right.
asking because, that's
Right
important.
now, Bartlett Surfside is the only federal aid project that's approved right now. We are hopeful that it will be ready for programming in FY19. By ready for programming in FY19, I mean that it's very probable that the design could be completed by next summer, by September 30th, 2019. we're hopeful they can be. The right-of-way for that project is essentially secure now.
Yeah,
Previous
it's all
town meetings
set.
have appropriated funds that have been acquired by the county. So there really shouldn't be right-of-way impacts. There's no environmental impact, so this really should be a fast project. It's a technical technicality that we haven't submitted preliminary design plans to DOT yet, so we're not allowed to put it into our TIP. But I'm very hopeful at some point this fall we can add that to the TIP, and we'll be able to use some of our funding. Just so you know, Surfside Bartlett is going to be an expensive project. It's going to be, $1.5 million, $2 million in that range. We don't have preliminary costs yet, but that's what we can expect to pay, is something about $1.5 million, $2 million. That will likely use our FY 19 and 20 funds. So if we do amend the TIP in the future to add the project, we'll likely be programming it over 2, if not 3 years, depending on available funds at the state. But just so you know, that will probably be our project for the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay, so we can leave it alone, even though it's not ready to be in the pipeline, under their standards, because we're not quite ready yet, 25%.
Not quite ready to program
Okay.
it yet, but we do need to
Perfect.
advertise for public review the draft TIP.
They were over there just doing some surveying the other day. I don't know if it was for that, but there
For
was,
all 3 roundabouts.
is that what's going on? Okay.
Yeah, we do have a public hearing May 17th, 6 o'clock at the high school cafeteria to go over all 3 roundabouts, the Four Corners intersection, Prospect, Surfside, and Sparks, and Atlantic, Bartlett, and Surfside, what I call the elementary school intersection, and then the
One right here.
Fairgrounds intersection
Yeah.
at Old South Road. All 3 of those will be in a public hearing for design, May 17th, 6 o'clock at the high school cafeteria.
Okay.
Underneath that, you've got in-town bike path, Orange and Washington. How close is that to being ready?
Not as ready as the Surfside Bartlett. We do have some funds for that. There's the interim measures that are bike routes and portions of the bike lanes. The next step is to get an engineering consultant for the actual engineering of what we believe to be bike lanes from the Rotary all the way to town on Commercial Street, all along Washington Street, all along Orange Street. That would be the next step. Is
And
an
is,
engineering
and
consultant.
how much is,
What's it going to cost?
what's
Yeah.
the call, Remain helping us with that? Are they just doing Washington only?
They're
Or
doing,
are they helping us with more?
this year's stuff.
This year's, and they did a feasibility study of understanding right-of-way impacts for the next step against bike lanes along Washington Street and Orange Street. Their mission is of the recent effort has been mostly geared towards what can be done for this summer.
Yeah,
And
I
VHB.
understood that, but if
Yeah.
they're bringing in VHB, which they're very familiar with everything that we're doing here,
Very.
should we be using them now for this, or are we all set?
We'll go through a request for response process where we'll solicit 3 engineering firms to see if there's interest in the pricing
Okay.
for engineering services for this, what we're calling the future phases of the town bike path. VHB is very familiar with the project, but we do like to.
How are we
invite
with,
others to
and
be-
how are we with Marine right now? When's the last time we talked to them?
As part of the Remains
Oh,
initial
okay.
feasibility study,
Good.
we have sat down with the owners to talk about that. There's a little bit more utility impacts with what they do with the utilities that cross their parking lot, and as well as the parking issue. But they are aware, it's went about as well as those conversations can go.
Yeah, I know. I just figured if we're talking about it, we might as well get this out, so, okay.
Yeah. And the reason I asked, you look at page 28, and serious injuries per 100 million, we've spiked from 08 to 12 and 11 to 15, if I'm reading that correctly. And I think it's,
I bring my glasses to these meetings.
so those are pretty indicative of what, it's chaos out there at times. So I think these things are, I think this bike path, it would go a long way to helping some of this.
I mean, it's really just a widening safety bike lane route
Yeah.
to get it past,
Marine,
whatever the road is called that goes down there. No, the little road that goes down to the point there before you get to Marine. What's the name of the road?
Poverty Point.
Spruce?
Yeah, I know, but I didn't want to say Spruce Street.
Spruce Street,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Probably.
Anyways,
Well, that's the first one, and the next one
yeah.
is Spruce, yeah.
But Goose Pond, whatever it is there, but, because it's, that's good. Now that it's already done, now it's like part of us. And people are sitting there on their bikes reading the map, totally safe in that little area that everybody complained about. It was the worst idea we've ever had. Now it's the greatest 100 feet. To nothing.
But what's needed? You know how they have the line in the safety.
Yeah.
It needs to be lining on either side on the bike lanes
To get it.
Because what's happening? My
I know.
sister
The
sits.
width you're
She's making sandwiches,
favoring.
looking out the window, watching people getting pushed over by cars when they're biking. They hit the curb and they fall over into the street. She sees it regularly all summer.
Yeah.
And so if you made a line there and delineated where the cars are supposed to be, maybe they'd
I
be
think
in it a
that's
little
part
bit,
of
but it would
Isn't
be a
that
lot
part of
safer.
the plan, Mike, to do that? What he's talking about is where the Henry's Junior side is still lined as if the other side's not fixed. We have to kind of like move the traveled way so that the lane becomes there. Does that make sense?
The
But it's
outbound
only
lane.
for 100 feet, that or whatever it is.
Well, but I'm saying even outbound, she sees it mostly because she's looking out the outbound right-hand side going out of town.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
But if we move what you're saying, we move the traveled lane towards the railroad bed side, it'll make 2 lanes in that one spot. That was the plan,
Yeah.
right?
Eventually, wherever the section in front of Henry's Units, that width, you'll see that in the entire.
All
like
the
30
whole
feet,
different, the
30
whole
feet curb to
distance.
curb, the whole distance to the rotary. With this new
Well-
striping, it'll be done hopefully before Memorial Day.
Well, you already have the width after East Creek.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly,
already
exactly. So
wide enough.
we will get a choke point between East Creek Road and Marina Homestead.
Yeah.
That will be a choke point. The balance of the road will be restriped. In that choke point, the road will be striped with sharrows to
Yeah.
make it hopefully very obvious that it needs to be shared in that one very congested stretch until the next phase is implemented, because there is utility and right-of-way
That's a new
impacts.
word of 2018.
What's that?
Right, sharrows. That's a new word for this year, by the way. Just heard that
Share the road?
at the Wendy Schmidt meeting.
What do
That's
you
the
call
first time I've ever heard of it.
Sure.
Sharrow.
Share the road.
That was at the
You
meeting.
don't know what a
with
shero
them.
is?
Like, I've never heard of that one, but I figured out what it meant. All right, so, Mike, so,
The action that we'll need is to
Yeah.
authorize the advertising of a public review, 21-day public review of the tip. And again, at the meeting on May 21st, that's where we'll close the public review period and take action to approve the tip.
okay, so anyone want to make
So
that
moved.
motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous. Okay, and the UBWP portion, Mike.
Same with the tip. This is a draft work program. I'm trying to scroll down to do that. I'm going to put the work program schedule. If you look on page 87, that's a summary of the tasks that will be undertaken in FY19. This does include the updating of the long-range transportation plan. 4 weeks is being budgeted for that process, 4 solid weeks, but that'll be spread over the entire year. So that'll be the big planning task for this next year, is reviewing goals and objectives, reviewing demographics, how the community's changed in the last 4 years. Look at where we said we would be in 4 years, the projects that have been implemented, and what projects should be the priority going over to the next.
And just for everyone's information, Mike, how often do we do this, just so everyone knows? Is
The
it
federal mandate is every 4 years.
Okay.
That plan is updated.
Okay, and so when people say things about that plan, it doesn't mean that those dates are solid, that it's just a projection, and then they get reshuffled every 4 years, or some stay. So that's something that we, when that document gets out, it gets, looked at as if we're like really doing all this stuff, and it's not true. We do the same thing at the steamship. It looks like we're doing all these crazy things in 15 years, but it doesn't ever really happen exactly like that. But there has to be some kind of punch list, or
Every business with a
So you
capital
have
plan
to
is
have
something
that.
have about a
So-
3, 4, 5 year window of looking out and then recalibrating every year.
Okay. What else is there, Mike?
I'm sorry, so, well, we need the same action we did with
Okay.
TIP, the approval of or the authorization of a public review period, our 21-day public review period, and then we'll end that on May 21st to,
Yep.
end the public review period and approve the UPWP.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item, Mike, I want to just, for everyone's, I have my own thought on this next item. We have other actions we're taking in June, and I think we should postpone the VPAC appointment till we make other appointments. That's just my feeling. I'm not, sort of just for the, everybody's, weigh in what they think, but sometimes these things cross over other things. That's just my opinion. But that's, anyone's got a better idea, and that's
Who's
fine.
the representative now?
Right now, Linda is. So we don't have one, which is fine. We don't need to have somebody for 1 month
Yep.
or not. It doesn't really make a difference. I just think that in June, I think we should wait till June. Is it the 18th?
June 18th.
June 18th, right? It's getting mixed up with all these different dates. To wait until then. How often is BPAC meeting, Mike? Because you're involved with that heavily.
We meet the third Wednesday of every month at 3 p.m.
See,
And
it's
that's
very
a
good.
career
That was
plan.
one of the smartest things we've ever done, is create this bicycle MPNEDC. I love it. That's what it is, really. And Jason is fantastic on that
Sorry.
commission.
The current structure of the committee is 3-year appointments, and those appointments, the entire committee will need to get reappointed.
And no, that's the only catch. It's,
June of 2019.
we haven't staggered it still,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, you should.
I know, I don't understand that, but that's just how it ended up. I don't know how that,
Makes it easier with the advertising.
is it better to leave it the way it is? I mean, you're on it. I've never
I've
been to one meeting.
3 years. So,
Okay.
From that standpoint, it's
Then
not
it
so
works.
bad, it's continuity, but
It seems to
And
make
if
some.
if someone is voted out. you
What
can
I
put
like
a new
about
person in.
BPAC
exactly.
is it, you know what it does that I like a lot? Is it sort of helps not have traffic safety be the handling stuff that isn't really the right thing, in my opinion, sometimes. And you got Kevin Marshall is on that, right? So that helps us as far as that goes, too.
We've been doing a lot of outreach. We've had the Safe Routes to School staff at the state come down and coordinate with the elementary school staff to talk about transportation improvements around the schools, so that's been a healthy exercise. We also had a bike training staff for J1 visa programs. Everyone who comes to on island with a J1 visa needs to go through, I think it's the Social Security, I'm starting to talk out of depth, but the Social Security office comes down to consult with every J1 visa program. Part of that component that the state's trying to get more involved with is bike safety and education on rules of the road.
Yep.
So there are 2 events in May and June where they're coming down to help with NIR and educate them on rules of the road and how things may be a little bit different. Talking about safety, areas of safety concern on the island where biking may be a little difficult, and helping them through that process. So it's been a very helpful committee, but the state's also getting involved in providing assistance. And Kevin Marshall, Harvey Young,
Yeah.
Jason Bridges, they're also good at getting involved, not just
Oh, this is
showing
good.
up to committees, but doing some outside of events that are geared towards education.
Okay, so,
That's smart.
yeah, it is really good, and get mopeds out of car spaces.
Well,
Like,
this is a result of some of those J1 kids not going
I
home.
know, they take
oh,
it.
You know, a fair number of them haven't made it home. They're biking around the Cape
What do you
and
do?
being wiped out. You know, they're going down the highway like it's Europe, and it's not.
some respect.
So, you're in a different world.
Yeah, it is a different world here.
Yeah.
And then, but
we
it's,
don't stop for bikes over here.
but if you step in the street, every car will slam on its brakes for you to cross any way you want. It's bizarre. It's the complete opposite for pedestrians as it is for bicycles. It's weird. We shouldn't be passed on a bike till you get to, as far as I'm concerned, East Creek Road. Really. I mean, I don't pass them because they're just going to pass you anyway when you get to the next stop sign. So unless there's, I mean, any opposition to my thought, I don't know. I'm just saying I think that we should postpone this till we have the other appointments. That's just what I think. But I'm not. I'm just one person. so. Anyone have any?
I'm just curious, not to put Matt on the spot, but I know you're a bicycle enthusiast. Did you have an interest at all?
Yeah, I'll
in
do it
this?
if-
Is there a
Because-
selectman spot on that? I mean, I don't remember what the,
Jason Bridges is.
I don't, yeah, but he was on it before he was a selectman, so what is the, I don't know
think we
what
do.
the
I don't think we do appoint.
thing
someone.
is on that, each position comes from.
We do.
Can't tell you.
It's all at large, and then one NBC representative is the seventh.
Oh, it's all at large? Okay, so anybody can be on it, doesn't matter what you are.
I'd like to make
I'll
the
make a
nomination.
motion, we appoint Matt to fill out the rest of the,
Well, no, this is
Oh.
this is for the till
this is a new
19.
term.
What I said was, we don't need to have somebody for a month and a half,
Right.
is what I
But I
meant.
think if we have a,
But this is a new, in other words, if, this would be a vote
You have
now
someone who's
for the
willing to
year.
do it.
I think if we have someone that's more than qualified and
Yeah.
has a willingness to do it, I think we don't need to wait a month.
No, that's fine.
And that's just my,
I
I
agree
would-
with that.
I would make a motion to appoint,
I'll second
you know,
the motion.
Yep,
Matt.
that's what we'd be doing. We'd be voting till next June, or whatever it is.
Okay.
So you got a motion and a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So Matt is.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Matt.
Sure, I want that.
You gotta strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, no, you opened your mouth too much about bikes.
Get those flashing
Damn it.
lights.
Next year.
Put them
Just
on the
filling
back
out
of your jacket.
Exactly.
Get him
So
in a
it's
week
unanimous,
long.
I'm assuming, Eleanor, so I'm voting in favor too, so it's unanimous.
See, 3 o'clock?
Thank you.
I'm putting it in.
You gotta plug that in,
Where is it?
Matt.
Wednesday?
You made the motion?
I did, second by Bert.
Okay, the parking management program, Mike. That was are we talking about the article at town meeting, or what are we talking about?
We are, I'm trying to find the page here. There is a scope for a parking demand management program. This is basically having to do a lot with Article 66.
Yeah.
Again, that was to create an entity to oversee parking, to create a district to where revenues are collected and used specifically within that district, and then create a commission to kind of oversee the operation.
Yep.
So on page 109 of the packet, there's a scope of services for this parking management program, basically structured around 3 elements: performance, operation, and administration. The idea is to work with Jason Schreiber, who's now in
I remember
Nantucket.
him.
He's not in Nelson Nygaard anymore.
Yep,
But
yep.
we like working with Jason. He's very familiar with the island. Remain Nantucket has expressed some willingness to help participate in the in costs for his services. This is being refined, I should note. This
Well, he
is
worked
the
with
final scope, and there isn't an agreement executed yet. This is just to share with you the initial program structure and to give you an update on where that stands on the implementation of that.
Well, since we're on this, 2 weeks ago I went to dinner at Assembly Square in Somerville to meet my son. Everybody should go there, just have dinner and walk around. Just look at what they've done there. I'm not saying Nantucket is Assembly Square, but I'll tell you what, there's some pretty interesting ideas in there. The flush curbing, the brick crossings, the painted crossings, the little dinky parking garage takes credit cards and doesn't charge for the first 2 hours. I'm the most non-savvy technic person in this group right here. Maybe not as bad as Barrett, but I'm probably second worst. And I'll tell you what, I could figure it out. That's pretty good.
There's hope for me up there.
You could do it too. It was the
He's not going that far, Bert.
it was the slickest little. It's like you come off the highway and you're just going along, take a right, and all of a sudden you're in this like community that's really small with all these small. It's like Mashpee Crossing, but a little different. And the way the streets were done, there's no traffic lights in this little square node. I've never been there, Mike. I thought of you first. I sent you a couple pictures, and I'm like, this is good. Like ideas could be derived from this for Nantucket, like what we did behind Dreamland, which they paid for. I love to tell people that, and what you just saw South Beach with the little stuff. That stuff is the future. Flush curbing when needed, keeping people walking where they're supposed to walk. People will walk if they can see something, like Matt's talking about with the bike lane. Like they'll just veer to the right and sort of stay there if there's a. It's like a cow. They go to the
If it's safe.
thing. I mean,
If
that's
it's
just
the
how they
direction
are.
and it's safe, they'll do it.
It's weird, and it's just how people have it. I was shocked at how that place is laid out. It's like a perfect little Arizona spot of new dirt that's all done the same.
What square? I'm sorry.
Assembly Square.
Assembly in Somerville?
Yep. And it's just, it's got a lot of things that
Abandoned for years.
we're sort of working towards one little sidewalk at a time kind of thing on Nantucket, but like you could go there and get ideas, Mike.
No, I've been there.
I mean, I-
Hotel, it's very affordable, and that Five Guys burger is right there. And, yeah.
Tony C's. My son didn't know who Tony C was, though. I had to tell him.
It's a nice
So
area.
the
But anyway, so Mike, so this is going to come up the next meeting, or with a
I just wanted
It's
to
just
give
a
an update
draft.
and share the scope with
Yeah.
you, what we're thinking of the structure of this. But you can see that we've kind of looked at, and this scope has in it a review of pricing mechanisms that include the user fee permit idea,
Yep.
the fixed unit pricing, so a set unit price per hour for parking, and then a market-based demand management scenario.
You know,
so that'll be looked at from each one of these
Yeah.
approaches, and look at how each perform, how they would operate
Yeah.
within the town structure, and how it would be administrated
Okay.
using performance measures.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Matt, I know you're heavily involved in this.
I just think we need to do it, but.
Yeah, no, I know, but I feel bad about the sticker because that was our idea 20 years ago, and nobody even knows it, and it gets blown up every time it gets brought up. I thought it was a pretty good idea.
That was a pretty good idea 20 years ago. I think we've passed that now.
I guess so. Jeez, but still got to go to the beach with a sticker, even if you go once. But
But
anyway,
we'll see what he comes back with that. And if I'm not opposed to a sticker if it's leading to something.
Yeah.
But I'm opposed to a sticker if it makes people feel entitled that they can come down and park even longer than they do. Part of the problem is we have to change the
one of the
mindset.
I think, Mike, I need to.
You need turnover.
Well, the turnover can happen with the signage, and
Yeah.
that's a separate issue. What Matt's talking about is the privilege.
It-
It's a privilege to
Yeah.
park downtown. It is. You can't say
Well,
that
then
it's
you're-
not.
That's- it
But
would be
there's
dependent on,
one issue, Mike, with the Harbor Place
Yeah.
stuff. And I've been saying this
That's the problem.
for so long now, even though I didn't
They don't.
know at the time that it was going to be for real. The greatest benefit that we have is the free AMP parking lot. We think we own it. It's 1964. We just pull in and just think it's ours. It's not ours, and that can get developed. So my point is, the reason I'm bringing that up is because when we talked about the little vibrating things and the little scratch and sniff ideas back in the day, when I think it was Nelson Nygaard was on that group, we met at Zero Main Street. Isn't that where we met him? That was like
Yeah,
8
the-
years
the-
ago.
The scratch cards.
Something. I remember all this stuff. I just don't remember exactly what year it was. But because when you mentioned his name, boom, I knew who you were talking about, that Jason guy from Nelson Nygaard. But anyway, I said that day we had all the cocktails, not cocktails, but all the little doilies there they had, freshmen. I'm like, this is never going to happen. And I remember sitting there with all those people, and they're looking at me like I was a moron. Guess what? It's never going to happen. You can't have something that people blow up here. But there is a way to pay for parking downtown. It's going to take a lot of influence and a lot of coercion. But that A&P parking lot goes away. That's the biggest wake-up call we've ever had. And it could. And that's what people don't realize. And we have to work with that in mind. Those spaces, we do not own those spaces. So all I'm saying is that little piece with what Matt's, this article and this other parking area, the whole downtown, I don't know how many spaces there are, Mike. You haven't figured out how many spaces are downtown besides A&P.
call it 1,000 within.
In the ROH
quarter
district?
mile, within a quarter mile.
I mean, I call it
What
the,
did you say, Mike? How many?
I would say about 1,000 within a quarter mile.
out to Easton Street or further? The loop?
Easton going all the way around to,
Up Center Street.
gosh, I don't know, Back Street, something like that.
Oh, that, okay. That's a good, but that's okay. Going to Silver Street's parking lot is my little line that direction in my mind. But, because that's a town lot, theoretically. So,
Who uses that lot?
there's a few people that
No, I see.
like to walk.
A fair number of them.
Right now, the town parking lot is Broad Street.
But I did see,
Get me started.
but at that Silver Street lot, I've seen a lot of commercial vehicles in there too. You're not supposed to, aren't they?
I don't do, you know, I
Supposed
don't,
to be in there now.
So
It's really a neighborhood parking lot
That's what I thought.
at night. During the day.
it rotates by itself, Jack's saying.
What's that?
That's always been like that, hasn't it, Jack? There used to be a bus stop there. They left the building, but it's not.
Yeah, the trucks did start to go in there when we started to enforce
Yep.
no parking overnight. They started to find that, and we had to say, you're not allowed to stay. We had to put a sign up, so you can't go here
Because it
either.
does have a sign now, that's right.
We had to put that up because they found it. They'll find the free places.
But I think that from what we're talking about, though, Mike's counted all these spaces. It's important to, we're trying to do the right thing, but in reality, we don't have a right to park just because we're from Nantucket or because we've always done it this way. This is something that's going to, and with this situation with NIR and that group, Winthrop and the electric company,
we do.
you got to work with them.
We have to
Figure
work
this
with them,
out.
but we do have a little bit of a right because 2/3 of that's in the Chapter 91.
No, I
license.
understand all that,
And,
but
and
that's
so if they go to change it, if they go to take that public space, and the Chapter 91 guys would not be, they don't. I don't think they really think parking is is big on their hit list. I mean, I don't think that they care about that as much as they care about public access. We would have to, as a town, we'd have to go and we'd have to oppose them getting rid of it.
well, the airport's on Straight Wharf, so we're going to have to.
I know, I agree with you. So, but all I'm saying is it's not, we do have some standing there, and that in Chapter 91 does have some teeth to it. So it's not completely not ours, and they can do whatever they want tomorrow. We could battle it out, but we're better off working with them. I agree.
What I mean when I say the RC, you can do a lot with RC. It's not like that's LUG2 down there or something. So what I'm saying is,
Where's the line for the Chapter 91? Does it go over
2/3.
commercial?
It's 100 feet
It's about 2/3 of that parking lot. If you look at a map
from
the water to
from
the
where
back.
though? From the dock,
From
the
the
sheet
dock. So
pile.
if you looked at that map
From the bulkhead
from the
back?
bulkhead back, it's
Yeah.
You start
2/3
heading east.
heading
Yeah.
toward town.
New Whale Street there we on.
Yeah, it's
That's the only public road, right?
Main Street.
yeah.
New Whale. That's right. That's the only one.
Yeah, so
But-
it's sort of around there, but it's not straight across. It kind of, and it's the fill-in. I think it's the old. If you look at the line, it kind of wiggles. It's not a straight line.
All right. Well, anyway,
Yeah,
so
we are
I just
losing-
was
For a time, look, if I can mention something,
yeah.
we are losing. This is the last year of the valet. So what is that?
Oh, that's
70?
right. Okay.
So that's 70 spaces, 80 spaces.
But I thought, did they come back and say we're going to do
getting
it?
it this year.
Okay.
But
You're
next
talking about you're talking about National Grid,
National Grid has we have a
valet.
license with the valet lot.
Okay.
They weren't going to do it again this year. They've agreed to do it one more year, but they're saying next year absolutely not.
What are they gonna use it for?
They
They're
don't tell
not
us.
going to tell you that.
They're not.
They're just
Yeah, it's
trying
the-
to, they're just trying
Yeah,
to put
probably the
pressure.
project. They're
Yeah.
going to be digging up the roads and doing all that work.
They're
So
gonna
it's
put all their
probably
equipment in there.
yeah, it's probably that.
The
So
the
we can.
N9 thing or whatever.
Yeah, we
it
could.
is.
Yeah, they're going to do the
N8.
2 years worth of. Yeah.
LA. Yeah.
The
I just
streets.
want to bring up one comment. Thinking of parking, we've brought this up in many meetings before, and I was up in Boston, went to Newberry Street, drove down the road, found a parking spot, got out of the car, walked half a block down, put my credit card in, and it has different timetables. But I took the ticket for an hour, and it has a peel sticker, peeled it, put it in my windshield. I was good for an hour. So it might have cost $5 or something for the hour, and $4 I think it was. And sure enough, any police officer wants to come by traffic, they would just look in the sticker and it has a time. So if it's 2 o'clock and
Now it's
you're past the
2:30.
time, you're getting a ticket. No, each of these $4 or $5 per hour, it invites you take your car and move it. Number one, it's inconvenient. You can get somebody to say, well, I'm going to park there all day. But if they park there all day, they're going to pay $40 a day. And they park there 5 days a week, it's going to be $200. Next thing you know, they're spending $800 a month to park there Monday through Friday. And that's at a minimum if there's only a 4-week time period. So it's not worth it for the $800 to go and then you're spending. Some people might say it is worth the $800, but you're going to be few and far between one person. But I think that particular concept
I like that.
could be explored, and it's very, the meter is so inconspicuous. It just stands there. It's this big, and it takes credit cards.
The credit card is the answer.
Everybody,
One way or the
debit,
other,
credit,
that's the answer.
And you know what? It just you can, if you don't want the actual meter, put it on the side of a building. But everybody knows, if you think about the length of Main Street, you could probably have 3 of them there, one on each side, because you don't have to be on every single parking space. You can have one halfway down, so 10 cars walk down to get the meter, and you know you have to do that.
Interesting.
The thing that I've always thought about before, we've been talking about this for over a decade now.
Close to
I mean,
20
it's
years.
actually 2 with the original.
Close to 20.
It's 98 was the year that it really started, Matt, I think. But as far as like the parking garage issue isn't as old as that. But I've always thought that the in-town parking is different than a garage to get that accepted, and to go for paid parking in town versus the garage I always felt was going to be the hardest thing. But the credit card thing, like what he's saying, or what I found at this parking garage, how easy it was, I was like, this is like getting one of those little things at the airport for your bags, the little 3-wheeler thing, and you put a credit card. It's $1 to get it out, but you have to have a credit card. You can't take it out. I mean, in some airports. So what I'm saying is that's the answer, because that's easy for people. Everybody, I mean, if you don't have a credit card, I mean, I hate to say it, you might as well not park
Probably
downtown.
not driving.
But it's
Probably in the island
so
home.
yeah, but that's going to be the sort of massaging of getting people to accept this at some point in time. And the airport is on Straight Wharf, Mike.
And did you see that?
I mean,
now
you
there's
can't. You're not going to change. That's never changing. That is one thing that is never going to change. The fast ferry is it. There's no other. There isn't going to be a 747 to Hyannis taking 400 people. It's just not going to happen.
Wait till the Uber flying cars, man. I'm gonna
They're already
fly
killing
you to Hyannis
They're already killing people now.
and remind you of that.
I just wanted to bring me a sandwich. But anyway, so Mike, what do you need? Nothing for this. This is just a FYI,
I
right?
want to keep you updated on the status of parking management. It's one of our goals and objectives in the transportation plan. You're all supportive of Article 66, so I just
Yep.
want to share with you how the coordination I've been doing with town administration, police, to actually implement what needs to
Okay.
be implemented.
Okay, very good. And then,
The time frame for that might get pushed up a little bit because of the loss of the parking lot.
The valet?
The valet is that could
So
you know
this year
once
we-
they look at
That's
this,
gonna hurt, Matt. That's gonna hurt.
it's going to hurt a lot, and so it could go both ways. We could say, okay, let's let it hurt and then do it, or we could say, let's get it in place
Yeah.
into the initial beginning of it. So that and I think that's what Jason will know more about that than us.
yeah,
So.
Jason, not
It's just right.
From
Nygaard
Nelson,
or whatever
yeah.
is yeah,
Shriver.
Shriver. Right. Okay, we have to be careful now because we have another Jason that's more important. But anyway,
So at some point, we have to form this committee?
what committee?
This,
the demand management
Demand
committee. I mean, are we going to do that?
Not this body.
Isn't that the
Board of
selectmen? Yeah, I was going to say.
Selectmen.
Select board. Sorry, select board's gonna. Well, no, they're going to set up the criteria for this group, right?
I think
Matt,
so.
probably.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we're asking what sort of advice on what that is too. I mean, you can't. Part of the problem now is that some of this stuff comes to selectmen like the
And then
parking
it
stuff,
changes again.
once a year or once every, and then you say,
Yeah.
oh well, look at this, then it goes away, it comes back again. There needs to be someone that focuses on this. There needs to be a group of,
No,
3
I
or
agree.
5.
It's because we're on sort of, I don't want to say the final leg. We haven't done anything, but we've vetted so many things. And now with the end grid, I mean the Harbor Place stuff, and it's a little bit more important to to fix it. By the way, are we getting those parking spaces? Yeah.
Which ones?
So, did we get the,
We were hoping.
I thought we were getting a, valuation for them yet.
We've been asking for
That
a
is-
couple of years.
That is the second craziest thing that happens here, other than mopeds and car spaces, is those 2 parking spaces.
You know,
For the
Drive
taxis?
me nuts.
For the taxis?
No, Bob
Well, we
Leff's
haven't seen
parking
it. We were waiting
spaces.
for the.
Whose spaces?
Bob Leff's.
Maybe Andrew has it.
They're
They're still there. Doesn't matter. It went with the sale.
And where
They
are-
own
which
those
ones?
parking spaces in front of that
Working
building.
With them on that to get.
I was supposed to be, they're supposed to be doing an appraisal, the town did last year. I figure it's gonna come in around 300 grand. I bet it does. That's crazy. That should have happened. I just can't
Well, we
believe
have-
that
we may have
screws
real
up those
estate money
cabs
that
so
could do
much and all those
something.
drop-offs, those 2
Because
cars.
we just gotta
Right
take
from
care
the
of it.
clip.
Just sitting right there in front of the Tobins. In front of Backyard Barbecue, whatever we're calling it
Oh, okay.
this week. Okay, so as far as Andrew's thing, everybody read that? This is about Andrew's disclosure. This is just a FYI about, this is all about the 3 paper roads, the out off Skyline through the Sumner Street, Clay, but there's another one. I can't even think of the name.
Menista, Washington, Jefferson, Andrew, Clay,
Yeah.
and one other one.
And so Eric is, you know, one of the abutters, and one of the streets is
Jackson.
theoretically her driveway, and so that's why this disclosure is here. So if anyone has any questions, other business, Barry, when you sit like that, I feel like I have to see if you're okay. Okay.
I will let you know.
No, I know. You don't know we have this many people. And nobody in the audience. Amazing. They come to town meeting for the public hearing now. So, Fritz, you good?
Good.
Okay. So, work with Mike. If you have any questions.
I'm gonna meet with him the week after next.
If you have any questions about some of this stuff, this tip stuff, it's confusing. It's taken me 100 years to figure it out. I still don't know what I'm talking about with it. It's unbelievable. You should give him the example of Cliff Road, to give him a little, like, what happened with Cliff Road bike path, and how hard that was, and how and then we get it all set, and then the bids, and then we fix it, and how that all came back around to be a great project, but how hard it was to get the state. It's easy if we do it ourselves. We can do anything ourselves and write a check if we can do it. But to do it through Mike's system is, sometimes it's complicated, you know. We should get that bike path on the left side of Sconset Road somehow in this, somewhere, to the back of Iron Lumber. That's the greatest idea I've never heard of until last year.
It was part of the old.
I know it was, but I had no idea that ever was on a piece of paper. How did I miss that?
That was in comp plan.
That was in like
That's
the
20
90s.
something years old.
Andrew
Yeah.
said it was like early 90s.
It
Is
was,
that?
and I didn't know
Beth
this, but it was
Giannini?
actually part of the Pulpus Road bike path. It was part of that design, and somehow it was cut out.
Well, because of the frontage and,
Yeah.
you know, that was the
Yeah.
fishes.
Poison ivy
There
there.
was no way that was going to happen.
Remember?
The one that, no, when they put the Pulpus bike path in, remember that with the tree and everything? You were probably on the selectmen then. They were going to go in front of Island Lumber and the Islander.
Right.
And that's why that little thing cuts across.
Right.
But there's a plan to put, because we have the layout, Jack. We have 150 feet of road there. So we can go right in front of Dinsmore Cottages, right to the end of, right where it crosses the road. And just keep every single bicycle from crossing the road that it wants to go to. I mean, that's pretty good.
And
if
that's
we
a
could do that.
and that's a really dangerous section.
It's
when you
bad.
If you go try to go across Milestone, it's terrible. If you're coming out of Pulpus, it's safer to just go on the Milestone.
It is.
Down the road and get yelled
And
at
cro-
by cars
and cross
than it is
over.
to cross twice.
Yeah, no, you're
And,
right.
and so this will make a huge difference.
That's something I feel we should pay for that ourselves. I'm just saying, like, getting that, even, forget about the Old South corridor. That should be just something that we should do, regardless of all the other pieces.
Understood.
You know what I mean?
I do.
I think but that we learned from Brian at the meeting the other day. We had
Turbot?
Brian Turbot said
Okay.
there were 350 more cars registered here this February, middle
Sitting
of the
here
winter.
in the winter parked.
Parked than there were last year at this time.
Yep.
So that means we've got close to 500 plus peak season. So that that's what we're facing.
That's the reason that we're having less on the boat for single
Exactly.
cars.
Once they get here, they don't
1,480, I think it was, less one-way car trips last year.
Yeah, once they come, they don't go
Which
back.
is an amazing number to think. That's
They come over and they don't go back.
no, less one-way tickets sold. We don't know exactly. Even you can't follow every car like a tagged fish, but that's how we figure it out. The seasonal resident that used to bring a car here, they take it home. They have a car here now.
And they just
They're not
leave it.
taking it here anymore. They're leaving it. In the vineyard, it just started in the last few years. Here, it's been going on for 20.
But my point for that is, if we expect to have people not use their cars as much, then we need to bump stuff like that up in the line. When it's nice weather and it's sunny out and people can use other alternatives, we should make sure that it's safe enough for them to do so, and that should be a priority.
I mean, we. It's funny. We did so much bicycle work, since, I'm just going to say 2000. I mean, when did you get here? I forgot.
June 25th, 2001.
Yeah, so Beth, the last thing she did was what? Dionis?
Eel Point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean,
Yeah.
the piece there. So, what Matt is talking about is true. It's just that now it's all filler pieces. It's not like,
and it's the
other
tough
than
stuff.
Wall Winnett and Tom Nevis,
But we've got to connect it.
we
to
got to
make
do
it
these
safe.
filler pieces.
People won't go in, ride a bike or walk into town now because it's not safe to do it in a lot of cases. You make it safe, and they won't use the cars. I mean,
Yeah.
it really
It is
that's
true.
got to be the priority.
It's true.
So
Well, Hummock Pond's that whole thing with getting that done was a pretty big. Where are we with the piece at Hummock Pond that everybody thinks is Vespa Lane, but it's really not? When are we doing with that? No, the other piece. There's a little. Wasn't there? Weren't we going to go to the Joyce?
Oh,
The little section there.
Right.
That's a lower priority based on our scoring, but it's
The road is pretty wide there. It's not that big of a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It is wide. That's a wide road. Vespa Lane is wide. You can pass a bike
It's
easily.
You need some kind of bike pedestrian facility along the road, but it's a lower graded priority.
And what about
compared
the
to some of
stuff?
other projects.
Where are we with the your favorite topic, the prospect over the hill around the bend thing?
Those plans are finalized.
I thought that was getting done. Like, I know it happened between the DPW switchover. I know.
Well, not just that. I mean, they're construction. I mean, that's why the
But-
Oak Street section hasn't been paved. There's just been a lot of demand for labor on other roadway projects,
And what about? And where are we with Wynn Street?
the funding is there. I talked with the DPW director a few weeks ago about
That's a
moving on
big-
that project.
that's
We just
a-
have design funding right now, no construction, but the design.
You
money
talk
is-
about your Sharrow
Yeah.
thingies there.
Yeah.
That needs to be a Sharrow one way.
What's the
To-
show? S-H-A?
I guess you spell it Sharrow.
To share.
Like,
Have you figured that out yet, Mike?
How to
The
spell it?
spelling of it?
SHARROW.
There's probably going to be a sign. There's going to be a sign, right, that says it. Are we going to have one way on Wynn Street in only?
Wynn Street should be two-way. I think part of the scope of that was
I'm gonna
working with
Google
the
it.
millers on the corner
Are
to
we-
actually get an easement for visibility there.
Are we really going to do that?
They seemed to be open to it when I went to their house and talked to them about it.
Good. I didn't know you went and visited them about that. That's a
I did that when we actually went to the finance committee to ask for those funds, and ultimately town meeting.
that's
approved those
huge,
as
Mike.
funds.
That's as bigger than our charter hedge. I can tell you that. Way bigger problem. So that's good.
Oh, here it is.
I didn't know you did that. That's good
S-H-A-R-R-O-W.
stuff because I mean theoretically
that's it.
you cannot see a thing pulling out of Wynn
Sparrow.
Street. Period. You might as well just drive at night only when so you can see the headlights. If we can move that hedge
Yeah.
for them or whatever we're going to do for them, that's now I'm happy. I mean, because I was scared to have that two-way. Because we talked about Saratoga I think there'd be a lot of pushback. That was Bert Ryder's idea, to switch that around. Oh, John actually had that idea.
Have it go one
But-
direction, have, yeah.
It would work, Matt. But you've probably done that 100 times, but you're from here. You
Yes.
have to put the sharrows in, but the people that live down there
It started in Australia.
might not want that. Is that where it started?
Yeah, it says it started in Australia, Canada,
See that?
Spain, and the United Kingdom.
It's amazing. It finally made it over here to the new land. But Mike, no, that would be good. If you can get that fixed, then Wind Street becomes the connector that we've never had to go around Quaker Road with a bicycle. That's good news. I didn't know you have been talking to them,
No, that's a town
because
meeting
that's been the
design
big
fund.
deal,
Yeah,
to
but
try to figure out what to do about that hedge.
We have a lot of issues that obviously involve the DPW, and we have a new director. In the past, we always had a DPW representative on this board. What happened?
We removed it to make it it's not removed officially yet, though.
'Cause
But
there's 11 people
we
in
have,
H12.
but we have it as a,
Homebrew.
no, I know that, to make the number odd,
Right.
but at the same time, ex officio. We don't need them to be an official member. They're on everything. They're on the right-of-way committee. Chuck Larson can
Oh,
come
but
to the
he-
meeting.
But they've never
Ja-
come, that's what I'm saying.
Well, but they're new. This all just happened when Chuck was coming for a little while. I think Rob came to one meeting. But back when Jeff was here, we had Mohammed sometimes, we had Jeff sometimes, we had,
Well, Kara always came.
she did,
Fill in for Jeff.
but she didn't, when Jack used to fill in, and that's right, Jack used
Yeah.
to fill in. But so he's on the right-of-way committee as an ex officio. Andrew's on the right-of-way. He gets
Right.
all the emails for all this stuff. So that's why we did that, because as they change, some show up, some
No, I'm just
don't.
saying, the only reason. I
Somebody
bring it
else
up
can
is there's
come.
a
They
lot of
don't
the
have
situ-
to be the same
A lot of
person.
the situations that we're discussing and talking about, it'd be nice to have that input right here.
I mean, I've thought about BPAC members being, I mean, this is where we get into like, how far do you go with all this stuff? But this, you know what I'm saying? There's
I'm
so
just
much
saying-
different influence.
I'm just saying it would be helpful because there's a lot of issues that we talk
But
about.
Mike,
that
but
you
Mike
brought
is, Mike is working with them
up. Good.
more, I think, now than in the past, as far as the connection between his sort of part of the
I think that's
transportation
important.
versus DPW
I've
part.
always had coordination, but I'm very happy working with Rob and.
Yeah. Well, they seem to be very eager and aggressive, so I think it's great. Keeping, things are moving.
And you have to
things are
remember,
happening.
he's been here 1 year.
But he
He's
knows
still on
everything.
a honeymoon, by the way. He had his ribbon cutting honeymoon today, but
But he's done the right thing.
he's-
No, I like him.
Last summer, I don't know if people know this, every Friday, he had the guys come in at noon, and they cleaned up and threw out and cleaned up all those buildings, which hadn't been done in years.
which ones are you talking about?
Out at the DPW. At the
Oh,
dump.
okay.
So all those old buildings were piled with junk, trash,
The
stuff.
guys
that-
will save them
Yeah,
for
and stuff. And so he
themselves.
said, we can't.
Changing
we-
the culture.
So that
That's
was
a big
culture
deal.
change.
It's hard
He-
to do.
He led he led the charge. He said, "Okay, we're doing this one this week, this one the next week." I went by through town the other day. There were two guys, DPW guys. There were brooms. Their head down. They're sweeping.
They had brooms?
They had brooms and they were sweeping,
Thank
and their
God.
head was down. And so I sent him a text and I sent him an email, and I said, "Thank you very much." It was because I drove by and I didn't think much of it, and I was like, "Wait a minute."
Because they
Yeah,
were
well-
using the gas blower things
They were like
before.
sweeping and they were clean.
Good.
They were
They should be.
they were working hard, and I'm
Yeah.
like, he is in a short amount of time. He has had.
I think what's
really
happened,
positive impact.
we
out there.
talk quite
These
a bit.
guys are proud of it
and,
now.
And
Yeah.
he, when we had those listening sessions and you
Yeah.
were there, and Harvey, and he's going to have to reach out to the Jacks, but he's also learned who Harvey is. He's learned who knows, like, the sort of intimateness of things and certain things that you have to sort of know, this is okay, this isn't okay, even just in your mind. You know what I mean?
I get
And he
it.
learned a lot with this mess with the sidewalk thing. When he unveiled that piece of paper, I fainted when I saw that. I'm like, this can't happen. And he pushed it. And I told him, you might learn something here. And he did. And he actually called me the next day and said, I should have listened. And I said, that's okay. You learn now. This is good. And you learn to work with a whole bunch of different people at the same time because of the way that ended up happening with the 2 feet to the taking that 2 feet, Mike. That's all we needed, was that 2 feet.
But the process he put in place was what allowed that to happen the way it did.
He made that with you, with those meetings, so that's what I mean. He got to meet people
Exactly.
that, and learn, like, and like the lady that plants the trees there, what's her name? It was great that he got to meet her and see Annie, because it's important that he meets these people. You know what I'm saying?
No, it absolutely is.
So, you living in a small town, you have to know who these people are that are involved with this stuff.
Well, they like to get some positive feedback. I sent an email to him 2 days ago and thanked him immediately for the guys coming out from the Nantucket bike path, and they did.
Oh, trimming the edges off. I saw that.
And they swept, and that
Yeah.
hasn't been done in the spring for years.
Yeah, they're
And it's
getting
all
that
cleaned
grass,
up.
making it back to 8 feet.
It's beautiful.
I saw them doing that. Almost,
I call
that's
it
a big
mowing his
deal
marauders. I
because
always
the
stop and-
bike path
and thank
gets
him for what
smaller
he's
every
doing.
year,
Well, but they also forget to sweep it with the
Yeah.
with the machine.
and that machine is so strong they can push the grass off
Oh,
the
it's
edge
a
of the
beautiful
pavement that
job.
grows in. You know what I mean? So anyway, okay. So
Motion to
anyway,
adjourn?
yep. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
So, do you know that there is an Uber app for parking in the city? Have you heard about this? It's an app,
I have an Uber app, but I'll never press it.
but it's not Uber. But I'm saying it's the
My
Uber.
son put it
No,
in.
no, hang on, listen to me for a second. It's the Uber of parking.
Okay.
So there's an app for parking in the city.
Parkmobile.
Exactly, because people own
Yeah.
parking spaces, and you can rent them by the hour, by the day, by the week, and you don't have to drive around. Have you used it?
Down in Sacramento.